Jeffrey's feet pounded against the polished marble floor as he sprinted down the hallway, breath sharp and uneven. Scott's roar thundered behind him, shaking the house like a storm breaking loose. "Get back here, you little rat," Scott yelled. Jeffrey didn't look back. He couldn't. His heart hammered so loudly he could barely hear anything else. He rounded the corner and nearly slipped, crashing into the wall. Lily's voice sliced through the air from the staircase above. "Scott, he's heading to the back door." Her tone wasn't worried. It was gleeful, almost excited. Jeffrey felt the sting of betrayal twist deeper. A few days ago, Lily used to laugh with him in the kitchen, share late-night snacks, whisper about her crushes. But now her eyes looked at him like he was something disgusting stuck under her shoe. His fingers fumbled against the lock, hands trembling. He swung the door open and stumbled outside, the cold wind slapping his face. He didn't stop running until he reached the edge of the vast backyard. Only then did he dare to look back. Scott stood in the doorway, chest heaving, a cruel smirk curling across his face. "Run all you want," Scott said. "This house isn't yours. It never was." Lily appeared beside him, crossing her arms, her blonde hair swaying in the night breeze. "Don't come back," she added. "Seriously, you're not family." Those words, those 3 words felt like a blade carving into his ribs. Not family, not wanted, not loved. He backed away slowly, feeling the icy grass beneath his shoes. Something in him cracked, though he tried to hide it behind a forced, shaky breath. But his voice betrayed him when he spoke. "Why are you doing this?" he whispered. Scott scoffed. "Why? Because Mom and Dad are gone. And now we don't have to pretend anymore." Lily nodded like she agreed with every syllable. Jeffrey took a step back, then another until the house, the only home he ever knew, blurred behind a rush of tears. He turned and walked toward the gate, trying not to look weak. But as soon as he disappeared behind the trees, his breath hitched, and he allowed himself to crumble, just for a moment. The night swallowed him whole. He dragged himself down the familiar neighborhood road, backpack hanging off one shoulder. The lights of the house grew smaller behind him, until they were nothing but faint glimmers. The cold bit through his clothes. He didn't even know where he was going. But anywhere was better than being unwanted in the place he had called home for 16 years. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out with numb fingers, blinking at the message that lit the screen. It was from Lily. "Don't come back. We mean it. And Scott says he'll call the police if you do." He froze in the middle of the sidewalk, staring at the message so long that the screen dimmed. The wind blew harder, pushing him forward. Fine. If that's what they wanted, he would disappear. He walked all night. By sunrise, his legs felt like lead. He found a small shelter near the edge of downtown, a place with peeling paint and flickering lights. He pushed the door open, and warmth washed over him. The woman at the front desk glanced up. "First time here?" Jeffrey nodded, gripping the strap of his backpack. His voice cracked when he tried to respond, so he didn't say anything more. She didn't ask questions. She didn't judge. She simply handed him a blanket and pointed toward an empty cot. For the first time since the funeral, he felt a little safe. But safety didn't stop the nightmares. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Scott's sneer, Lily's cold stare, his parents' smiles fading into smoke, metal, and fire. On the 3rd morning, he walked outside and began searching for work. He took whatever came, washing dishes, sweeping floors, carrying boxes. Anything to earn a few dollars so he wouldn't be a burden to the shelter. He worked silently, head down, never complaining. But the ache in his chest never left. Meanwhile, across the city, Scott lounged on the living room couch with his feet on the coffee table, scrolling through his phone. Lily walked in wearing one of their mother's old robes. "Shouldn't you be, I don't know, doing something with your life?" she asked. Scott shrugged. "Why? We've got money. We've got the house. We're fine." Lily chewed her lip. I don't know. It feels weird." "What feels weird?" "Throwing Jeffrey out." Scott rolled his eyes. "Oh, please, don't go soft now. He's not our blood." And Mom and Dad only adopted him because they were guilty they couldn't have a third kid. Lily's eyebrows drew together. His words unsettled her, though she tried to hide it. Yeah, she said quietly. I guess. Scott stood and stretched. Stop thinking about him. He'll survive. Bugs like him always do. Lily didn't respond. But days passed, and something strange began happening. People started asking about Jeffrey. The first was a neighbor. Is Jeffrey home? Someone was looking for him earlier. Then a delivery man. Anyone named Jeffrey Hale here? No? All right. Then an older man, tall, well-dressed, with silver hair and dark eyes, appeared at the gate. He knocked twice. Lily peeked from behind the curtains. Scott marched outside. Can I help you? The stranger studied him carefully. I'm looking for Jeffrey. Scott crossed his arms and leaned against the gate. He doesn't live here. The man frowned. Are you sure? Positive. And even if he did, it's none of your business. The stranger didn't argue. He simply nodded, turned around, and walked away with a calmness that irritated Scott for reasons he couldn't explain. Lily watched him disappear down the street. Who was that? She asked when Scott came back inside. No idea, Scott muttered. Probably some social worker trying to dump him back on us. Lily felt a strange chill crawl up her spine. Something was off, but she shook the thought away. Across town, Jeffrey ate a small bowl of soup at the shelter. As he lifted the spoon, a hand gently touched his shoulder. He looked up. An older man stood in front of him, eyes trembling with emotion, as if he had seen a ghost. Jeffrey? The man whispered. Jeffrey blinked, confused. Do I know you? The man swallowed hard, then slowly reached into his coat pocket. He pulled out a faded photograph of a woman holding a baby. A woman who looked exactly like Jeffrey. My name is Richard Hale, he said softly. I'm your grandfather. Jeffrey froze. Every sound in the room vanished. Richard's voice trembled. I've been looking for you for 20 years. Before Jeffrey could speak, Richard's eyes filled with tears. And I'm here because everything your parents left, the fortune, the properties, the trust fund, it all belongs to you, Jeffrey. Every last cent. Jeffrey's spoon fell from his hand and clattered onto the table. His entire world felt like it shifted under him. But what Richard said next made his heart stop completely. And one of the properties, Richard whispered, is the home where those 2 children live. Jeffrey's breath caught. What? He whispered. Richard nodded solemnly. That house is yours. Jeffrey's pulse raced so fast he felt lightheaded. The house, his house, the place they threw him out of. His fingers tightened around the edge of the table as the realization slammed into him. Jeffrey didn't move. He didn't breathe. He just stared at Richard, trying to process the avalanche of information crushed into a few sentences. Richard pulled out a chair and sat across from him, hands trembling slightly as if afraid Jeffrey might vanish again. I know you have questions, Richard said quietly, and you deserve every answer. Jeffrey's voice cracked. I don't understand. My real parents? You knew them? Richard nodded, his expression softening. Your father, my son, was stubborn. Brilliant, but stubborn. He left home when he was young, fell in love, and married your mother. But after you were born, Richard paused, the pain in his eyes unmistakable. There was a terrible argument. He cut ties with me. I never met you as a baby. Jeffrey's throat tightened. And then, the accident? Richard nodded slowly. When your parents died, you were placed into foster care. By the time I found out, years had passed. You had already been adopted. And your adoptive parents, they refused to let me meet you. They said it would confuse you. Jeffrey sank back in his chair, heart aching with a mixture of shock, anger, and disbelief. They never told me, he whispered. I never even knew you existed. Richard's jaw clenched, grief flickering through his eyes. I'm sorry. I tried everything. When your adoptive father passed, I tried again. But your adoptive mother, she declined my request. And when she died, I no longer knew where to find you. And now, Jeffrey asked. Richard inhaled deeply. When I heard about the plane crash, something in me said it was time. I hired people. I searched every file, every shelter, every corner of this city. And you found me, Jeffrey said softly. Richard's voice cracked. Yes, and I am never losing you again. They sat in silence for a long moment. Jeffrey's heart felt heavy, but for the first time in weeks, someone looked at him like he mattered. Someone wanted him. Richard reached across the table and gently placed an envelope in front of him. This is the first piece of what belongs to you, he said. Your inheritance. Jeffrey stared at the envelope but didn't open it. He was still processing the larger truth. The house, Jeffrey finally said. You're saying, I own that house. Richard nodded. It was originally mine. I transferred it to your parents years ago. And now that they're gone, you are the legal heir. Jeffrey closed his eyes, breathing deeply as memories of that house, both good and painful, rushed through him. They threw me out, he whispered. They threw me out like trash. Richard swallowed. I'm aware. Jeffrey opened his eyes, anger simmering beneath the surface. And now I'm supposed to go back? Richard shook his head. No, you don't need to do anything until you're ready. But legally, the house is yours. He paused. And they have no idea. Jeffrey felt a strange mix of satisfaction and dread twist inside him. Scott and Lily, what were they going to do when they found out? An employee from the shelter approached timidly. Excuse me, sir. We're closing the dining area for cleaning. Jeffrey nodded quietly and stood. Richard placed a hand on his shoulder. Come with me, he said gently. Let me take care of you, the way I should have years ago. Jeffrey hesitated only a second before nodding. He followed Richard outside, leaving behind the cold metal tables and flickering lights. Richard's black sedan waited at the curb, gleaming under the street lamp. The driver held the rear door open, bowing slightly. Jeffrey blinked. He wasn't used to anyone treating him with respect, let alone this kind of respect. He climbed into the car. The seats were warm, comfortable, safe. As the door closed, Jeffrey felt like he was stepping into a new world, a world he never believed he'd be part of, a world where he finally belonged. The car pulled into traffic, leaving the shelter behind. Richard sat beside him, watching him with soft, thoughtful eyes. You look exhausted, Richard murmured. You must have been through hell. Jeffrey shrugged weakly. I managed. Richard's voice tightened. You shouldn't have had to. Jeffrey said nothing. His thoughts drifted back to Scott and Lily, how easily they discarded him, how quickly they turned cruel, how little he ever meant to them. Richard leaned in slightly. Jeffrey. Jeffrey looked up. I want you to understand something very clearly, Richard said. You are not alone anymore, and your suffering ends today. Jeffrey swallowed hard, his eyes burning. He looked away, staring through the window as the city lights blurred into streaks of gold. Richard's voice softened. Tomorrow morning we meet with the lawyers. They will explain everything properly. And then, you can decide what to do about the house. Jeffrey gripped his hands together. I don't know if I want anything to do with them. That's your choice, Richard said. But remember, this story is yours now. Take your time. Heal first. Jeffrey nodded, though a small, sharp spark of anticipation flickered in his chest. For the first time, he had power, and they had none. The car stopped in front of a luxury high-rise building downtown. The lobby glowed with warm lighting and polished marble floors. Employees in suits greeted Richard with bows and, "Welcome back, sir." Jeffrey's heart raced as he followed him inside. Is this where you live? He asked quietly. Richard smiled. It's where you'll stay for now. I have a penthouse reserved. Jeffrey almost stumbled. For me? Of course. Richard chuckled. Your family. Family. That single word hit Jeffrey harder than anything else. Richard led him into the private elevator. When the doors closed, an uncomfortable silence settled between them. Uncomfortable only because Jeffrey wasn't sure how to handle kindness anymore. The elevator chimed. The doors slid open to reveal a breathtaking living space. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a massive sectional couch, modern lighting, a kitchen that looked like something out of a magazine. Jeffrey stepped inside slowly, his eyes wide. "Are you sure I can stay here?" he whispered. Richard placed a gentle hand on his back. "You can stay here as long as you want. This is your home for now." There it was again, that word. Home. Jeffrey exhaled shakily. "Thank you. I don't even know what to say." "You don't need to say anything." Richard smiled warmly. "Just rest. We'll talk more in the morning." Jeffrey nodded, finally allowing exhaustion to crash over him. After Richard left for the night, Jeffrey sat alone in the silent penthouse. His reflection stared back at him in the darkened windows. Tired, broken, unsure. He walked to the balcony and looked over the city lights. One day you're unwanted. The next day you're heir to everything. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A message from Scott lit the screen. "If you're stupid enough to come back here, I'll throw your stuff in the trash." Jeffrey stared at the message, his lips tightening. He typed back slowly. "You won't have that power for long." He paused, then deleted the message. "Not yet. Let them enjoy their cruelty a little longer." Morning came, and with it, answers. The law firm Richard brought him to was massive. Glass walls, polished floors, executives bustling around like they were keeping the economy alive. Inside a large office, a lawyer handed Jeffrey a thick folder. "This contains everything your parents left behind," the lawyer said, "and everything Mr. Hale has transferred to you." Jeffrey flipped through the pages, his eyes widening with every line. Trust funds, investments, a portfolio worth millions. And then, the house, his house. He swallowed hard. Richard watched him carefully. "Are you ready?" he asked softly. Jeffrey closed the folder, his hands steady. "Yes," he said. "I'm ready." That afternoon, Jeffrey stood in front of the mansion's gates. This time, not as a runaway, not as a burden, but as the rightful owner. And when Scott opened the door, the look on his face was priceless. Shock, confusion, then rage. "What the hell are you doing here?" Scott snapped. Jeffrey didn't speak. He simply stepped forward and let the lawyer beside him hand Scott the first set of documents. Scott's face drained of color. Behind him, Lily appeared, eyes wide, breath trembling. "Jeffrey?" she whispered. He didn't answer, because this time, they would be the ones left speechless. Scott snatched the documents with shaking hands, his eyebrows furrowed so tightly they almost touched. He skimmed the first page, his lips moving silently as he tried to process the legal language. Then he froze. His eyes shot up to Jeffrey, full of disbelief. This is a joke," Scott said sharply. "It has to be. You're trying to trick us." The lawyer beside Jeffrey stepped forward calmly. "It isn't a joke, Mr. Turner. As of last week, ownership of this property was legally transferred to Jeffrey Hale. He is the sole beneficiary of his biological parents' estate, and this house was part of that estate before your adoptive parents moved in." Lily stepped closer, her face pale. Wait, what do you mean, biological parents' estate? What is going on?" Her gaze locked onto Jeffrey like she was searching for the truth in his eyes. Jeffrey didn't look away. "My real grandfather found me." Scott laughed, short, sharp, mocking. "Your real grandfather? You mean that old creep who came here days ago?" Jeffrey's expression didn't change. "Yes, him." Scott's smirk faltered. "And he told me everything," Jeffrey continued. "Who I am, where I come from, what my parents left behind." He took a step forward, voice steady. "Everything your parents kept from me." Lily covered her mouth, her eyes filling with tears. "Mom and Dad, they never said anything." "Of course they didn't," Scott snapped. "He's lying. He has to be lying." The lawyer handed Scott the second sheet. "Here are the transfer confirmations from the estate court, along with proof of lineage and DNA verification." Scott stared at the papers like they were burning his hands. Then he crumpled them suddenly and threw them onto the floor. "Get off our property," he shouted. Jeffrey didn't flinch. "Not this time." "Your property?" Jeffrey repeated calmly. It stopped being yours the moment you threw me out. Scott lunged forward, but Lily grabbed his arm, panic flashing across her face. Scott, stop. Just stop. She turned to Jeffrey, tears streaming down her cheeks. Why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you say anything before? Jeffrey's jaw clenched. Because you didn't ask. You didn't care enough to ask. Lily's shoulders shook. I'm sorry, Jeffrey, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I didn't know things would turn out like this. But you still threw me out, Jeffrey said quietly. You still told me I wasn't family. Her tears fell faster. Inside the mansion, footsteps approached. A few neighbors had gathered near the gate, watching the scene unfold. Cameras from passing cars slowed, sensing drama. Scott noticed them and his anger dimmed into something more frantic. You're humiliating us, he hissed. In front of everyone. Jeffrey held his gaze. You humiliated me the night you put my things on the porch and locked the door. Scott opened his mouth to spit back something venomous, but then a familiar voice cut through the tension. Jeffrey. Everyone turned as Richard walked through the gate, hands clasped behind his back, posture regal. He regarded Scott and Lily with a calm, chilling disapproval. You must be Lily, he said gently. And Scott. Lily wiped her cheeks, nodding nervously. Richard approached them with slow, deliberate steps. I want you to understand something. Jeffrey may not share your blood, but he deserved the same love, the same care, and the same loyalty your parents gave you. Scott clenched his jaw. We didn't ask for him. Richard's eyes hardened. No, but he was given to you, and what you do with the family you're given defines your character. Scott's face reddened. Richard sighed, then turned back to Jeffrey. Do you want to go inside? Or are we done here? Jeffrey didn't answer immediately. He stared at the house, its tall windows, the balcony he once read books on, the porch swing his adoptive father built for him when he was 10. His childhood memories were woven into every corner of this place. But so were the pains of the last few weeks. He finally spoke. I want to go inside. Scott stepped into his path, blocking him. You're not going anywhere. The lawyer cleared his throat. Mr. Turner, if you obstruct the rightful owner from entering his property, I will involve law enforcement. Scott glared at Jeffrey, then at the lawyer, then backed away, fists clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white. Jeffrey walked past him slowly, heart racing with every step. Stepping over the threshold felt surreal, like stepping into a life he had lost and reclaimed. The hallway was exactly as he remembered it. White walls, family photos, the faint smell of citrus cleaner. His chest tightened at the sight of a picture of him at age 7, missing teeth and smiling with Lily and Scott beside him. He took it off the wall gently, staring at their small faces frozen in time. Lily walked up behind him. Jeffrey, that was one of my favorite pictures. He didn't respond. She swallowed. I'm sorry. For everything. Jeffrey turned the frame over, the memory twisting inside him. Why did you change? He asked softly. After the funeral. Why did you two hate me so quickly? Lily wiped her eyes again. I didn't hate you. I felt so lost. Scott said you were trying to replace Mom and Dad. He said you didn't belong with us anymore. And I believed him. Jeffrey placed the picture back on the wall. You never even asked how I felt, he said. Lily broke again, sobbing quietly. Scott walked in, jaw locked. Enough of this emotional crap. You got what you wanted, right? Money, the house, the life you always wanted. Isn't that why you were always so nice? Playing the perfect adopted kid so Mom and Dad would pity you. Jeffrey turned slowly, anger rising hot in his chest. Is that what you think this is about? Money? Scott scoffed. Don't pretend it's not. Jeffrey stepped closer until their faces were inches apart. You threw me out into the streets. I slept in shelters. I worked in places you wouldn't step inside without gloves on. I didn't even know I had a grandfather. I didn't know I had a life waiting for me. His voice cracked. All I ever wanted, was to stay here, With you. With Lily. With Mom and Dad's memories. Lily cried openly now. Scott's expression faltered for a brief second, but he pushed it down. Whatever. You coming back doesn't change anything. You don't belong here. Richard stepped into the room, eyes flashing. Enough. The word echoed through the hallway. Scott froze. Richard walked up to him slowly. Young man, you may have inherited your father's face, but you inherited none of his kindness. Scott stiffened. Richard turned to Jeffrey. You don't have to stay here if you don't want to. Yes, Jeffrey said. I do. Scott glared. Why? To rub it in our faces. Jeffrey shook his head. No. To take back what you stole from me. Lily stepped forward. Scott, stop. Please. You're making it worse. Oh, I'm making it worse? Scott snapped. He shows up with lawyers and tries to kick us out of our own home. I never said I was kicking you out. Jeffrey cut in, voice quiet but firm. Both siblings froze. Jeffrey continued. Not yet. Scott's breath hitched. What? Jeffrey looked around the house again, memories fluttering like echoes. You two can stay here for now, but things are going to change. There will be rules, respect, actual family behavior. Scott scoffed. You can't be serious. Lily whispered. Jeffrey, thank you. But, Jeffrey added, turning to Scott with a fire in his eyes, if you ever speak to me the way you did before, if you ever try to hurt me again, you're gone. Permanently. Scott's confidence cracked, just for a moment. Jeffrey stepped back toward the front door. I'll return tomorrow with the rest of the documents, he said, and we'll go through everything. Together. He opened the door. But before he stepped out, he glanced back at them one last time. Don't forget, he said quietly. You threw me out of this house once. Now, I decide who stays. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Outside, Richard placed a hand on his shoulder. You handled yourself well. Jeffrey exhaled shakily. It's not over yet. No, Richard said softly. It isn't. But the storm brewing was only getting started. Jeffrey walked deeper into the house, each step echoing across the polished floor like a memory he didn't want. He ended up in the living room, the same place where he had once been cornered by Scott and humiliated in front of Lily. Now he stood there as the legal owner, but the victory didn't feel as sweet as he imagined. The room was too quiet, too cold, too heavy with the past. He sank into the couch and rubbed his temples. His grandfather's voice echoed in his mind. You must reclaim what was taken from you, not out of revenge, out of justice. But right now, the only thing he felt was exhaustion. Physical, emotional, everything. He didn't realize he had dozed off until he woke to the sound of quiet footsteps approaching. He opened his eyes to find Lily standing near the hallway, holding 2 steaming mugs. I made tea, she said softly. Jeffrey raised an eyebrow. You cook now. Lily let out a tiny laugh. Barely. It's just hot water and a tea bag. Don't expect miracles. She placed a mug in front of him. I figured you could use something warm. He nodded. Thanks. She sat on the chair across from him, legs pulled up, arms wrapped around herself. For a moment she didn't speak, just watched him in a way that made him uncomfortable, like she was trying to read everything he wasn't saying. You've changed, she finally whispered. Jeffrey shrugged. Life does that. No, I mean really changed. You're confident now, stronger. You look like someone who survived something big. He met her eyes. I did. Lily's throat tightened. I'm sorry you had to do it alone. Jeffrey held the mug between his hands, the warmth seeping into his palms. You didn't have to be alone either, Lily. You had Scott. You had protection. I didn't. Her voice cracked. I wasn't protected. Not really. Scott bossed me around, scared me half to death sometimes. And after you left, he got worse. More controlling. More angry. Like losing Dad and Mom made him unbearable. Jeffrey studied her. He'd never considered what the house was like after he left. She took a trembling breath. I didn't say anything back then because I thought I thought if I sided with you, Scott would turn on me too. And I was scared. So you let him ruin my life instead? Jeffrey asked quietly. Her eyes filled again. I was a coward. I know. Silence hung between them, but it wasn't sharp this time. It was heavy and tired. Then her phone buzzed. She reached for it but froze when she saw the screen. Her face paled. What is it? Jeffrey asked. She didn't speak. She just held the phone out to him with shaking hands. It was Scott. A text message. I'm getting back everything. He's not keeping a damn thing. I swear it. Jeffrey's jaw tightened. Where is he? I don't know. But when he gets like this, he does stupid things. Reckless things. Jeff, he's angry enough to hurt someone. Jeffrey stood. I should go after him. No. She grabbed his arm. You don't know what he'll do. What if he attacks you? He gently pulled his arm free. I can handle him now. She stood too, blocking the hallway. Don't go. Not alone. Jeffrey exhaled through his nose. Then come with me. Her eyes widened. Me? You know him better than anyone. And he might listen to you more than me. She hesitated only a second before nodding. Okay, let me get my jacket. They walked out together into the cool night air, the driveway glowing under the security lights. Jeffrey's heart thudded as they climbed into his car. He started the engine, but before reversing, he turned to her. Where would he go first? Lily bit her lip. There's this old bar he hangs out at with some shady guys. Or the garage behind the basketball court where he hides things. Or Craig's house, his old friend. Jeffrey shook his head. We'll start with the closest. The bar. As he drove, the roads blurred past them, dark and empty. Lily's fingers twisted anxiously in her lap. Jeffrey, what are you going to do if you find him? I don't know yet, he admitted. But I'm not going to let him destroy everything. She nodded slowly. Just don't hurt him, please. Jeffrey didn't promise anything. They arrived at the bar a few minutes later. It was dimly lit, loud, and crowded even at this hour. Jeffrey parked and jumped out of the car. Lily hurried behind him. Inside, smoke wafted through the air. Men laughed loudly, glasses clinked, and music pulsed through the speakers. Jeffrey scanned the room and there he was, Scott, drunk, red-faced, surrounded by two guys Jeffrey immediately recognized as trouble. One of them was staring at a stack of money on the table. Lily gasped. Oh no! Jeffrey approached slowly. Scott. Scott looked up, eyes narrowing dangerously. Look who finally crawled out of the gutter. You got 5 seconds to walk away. Jeffrey remained still. You're drunk. Let's go home. Home! Scott roared, standing violently. His chair clattered to the floor. That is not your home. People stopped talking. Heads turned. The room grew quieter. Lily stepped between them, tears brimming. Scott, please. Shut up, Lily, he snarled, pushing her aside. Jeffrey caught her before she fell. Something snapped in Jeffrey. Hard. He stepped forward. Don't touch her. Scott shoved him. Or what? You're gonna hit me? Go ahead. That'll make it easier when I take everything back. The two men behind Scott watched like spectators waiting for a fight. Jeffrey kept his voice steady. Let's step outside and talk. No, Scott jabbed a finger in Jeffrey's chest. You stole our parents' house. Their legacy. You think I'm just going to let that happen? I didn't steal anything. Liar. Scott grabbed the stack of money from the table and waved it in Jeffrey's face. I'm buying a lawyer, buying help, buying whatever I have to. You won't win. I won't let you win. Jeffrey clenched his fists. You're going to burn your life down over this. It was already burned, Scott hissed. The day they adopted you. That did it. Jeffrey grabbed Scott's wrist to lower the money, but Scott swung wildly, fist connecting with Jeffrey's cheek. The impact sent Jeffrey stumbling back, hitting the edge of the bar counter. Pain exploded across his face. Lily screamed, "Stop!" But Scott jumped on him again, fury twisting his face. Jeffrey pushed him off, standing firmly as the room filled with gasps. Enough, Scott! Scott snarled and reached into his jacket, pulling out something metallic. Lily screamed again. Scott, no. Jeffrey froze. Scott smirked, waving the object. What's wrong, Jeff? Scared. But it wasn't a weapon. It was a car key, sharp, pointed, but still just a key. He lunged. Jeffrey dodged, grabbed Scott's arm, twisted, and forced him onto the table. Glasses smashed. People backed away. The bar owner shouted, "Outside! Take it outside!" Jeffrey shoved Scott toward the door. Fine. Scott stumbled out into the parking lot, swearing under his breath. Lily followed, trembling but determined. The moment they stepped into the open air, Scott lunged again. Jeffrey sidestepped, grabbed his arm, and pinned him against a car. Stop before you ruin your life, Scott panted. You already ruined it. No, Jeffrey shouted. You did. You ruined it when you became the monster Dad never raised you to be. For a moment, Scott froze. Something flickered in his eyes. Hurt, grief, something almost human. But then he shoved Jeffrey away. Get out of my sight. He staggered to his car, got in, and sped off, tires screeching violently. Lily stared after him, voice cracking. Jeffrey, he's gonna crash. He's going to kill himself. Jeffrey's stomach dropped. Get in, he said, rushing to the car. Lily scrambled into the passenger seat. Please hurry. He slammed the gas pedal. The engine roared. The tires tore across the asphalt. They chased after Scott, headlights cutting through the night, hearts pounding. The road ahead twisted sharply, and Scott's taillights were weaving, erratic, dangerous. Lily clutched the seat, sobbing. Jeffrey, please don't let him die. A sudden moment of fear gripped Jeffrey's chest, because for the first time he wasn't sure he could save Scott from himself. Jeffrey tightened his grip on the steering wheel, eyes locked on Scott's swerving taillights. The car jerked left, then right, drifting across lanes like Scott was fighting to stay awake or struggling against his own anger. Every second that passed made Jeffrey's stomach twist tighter. Lily wiped her face with trembling hands. He's going to crash. Jeff, he's going to. Not if I get to him first, Jeffrey said, voice low, controlled, but brimming with urgency. The road ahead curved sharply along a stretch of forest. A dangerous turn. One Scott wasn't sober enough to handle. Jeffrey's foot pressed harder on the gas. Scott! Lily screamed uselessly through the windshield, as if her brother could hear her across the distance. Scott's brake lights flashed. Too late. His car skidded, fishtailing violently. Jeffrey! Lily's nails dug into the seat. Scott's car spun out, tires screeching, the back end whipping toward the ditch. It slammed sideways into a patch of bushes before jerking violently to a stop, half hidden in the shadows. Jeffrey braked hard, the tires squealing as their car halted just feet behind Scott's. Stay here, he said quickly. No, I'm coming. Lily threw the door open before he could argue. Jeffrey ran toward the wrecked car, heart hammering. Scott! Scott, are you okay? Scott kicked the door open from inside, stumbling out with blood on his forehead. Get away from me! He screamed, staggering backward. Lily rushed to him. Scott, stop. You're hurt. I said don't touch me. He shoved her so hard she almost fell, but Jeffrey caught her arm. Enough! Jeffrey stepped between them. Look at yourself. You're bleeding. Your car is totaled. You could have died. Scott swayed, wiping the blood with his sleeve. Why do you care? Huh? You want me gone so you can keep the house? Keep the money? Keep everything that should have been ours? This isn't about the damn house. Jeffrey snapped. Yes, it is. Scott's voice cracked. It always was. Ever since Mom and Dad brought you home, everything changed. You stole their attention. You stole their time. You stole. I didn't steal anything, Jeffrey said firmly. Your parents gave me a home when I didn't have one. Scott exhaled sharply, shaky. You think that makes you family? I didn't say that, Jeffrey said quietly. But I didn't ask to be adopted either. Lily wiped tears. Scott, please. Just stop blaming him for everything. Scott's gaze whipped to her. You're taking his side again? Because you're wrong. she cried. Jeffrey didn't destroy us. We destroyed ourselves because we refused to deal with anything. Scott's hands curled into fists. I have nothing left, Lily. Nothing. And you're over here comforting him? You have me, she shouted. You have a sister who still cares even after everything you've done. Her voice echoed through the trees. Scott froze. The anger drained from his face, replaced with a raw, confused sadness. He lowered his eyes, breathing uneven. I didn't ask you to care, he muttered. But I do, she whispered. Jeffrey watched them silently, his chest tightening. For years he had wanted confrontation, justice, closure. But here, in this moment, he saw what the siblings were truly made of. Broken pieces, grief, and years of bottled resentment. Lily stepped closer. Come home, please. We'll figure this out together. Scott let out a bitter laugh. Home? What home? He owns it. I'm a guest in my own life now. Jeffrey finally spoke. Scott. Scott didn't look at him. I'm not kicking you out. Scott's head lifted slowly. What? You heard me, Jeffrey said. The house is big enough. And I'm not trying to replace your parents or take their place. Scott scoffed. Why? Because you want to feel like the good guy? No, Jeffrey answered. Because I know what it's like to have nobody. Lily covered her mouth with her hand. Scott blinked rapidly, trying to process the words. His shoulders sagged. His voice came out small, almost boyish. So, you're saying I can stay? Yes, both of you can. A long silence followed. Scott lowered to sit on the cold ground beside his wrecked car, head in his hands. I don't deserve that. Jeffrey stepped closer. Maybe not, but people grow. People change. And this is your chance. Lily kneeled beside her brother, hugging him tightly even as he resisted for a second before giving in. The three of them sat there in the quiet, broken night as the wind rustled the trees around them. Minutes passed before Jeffrey spoke again. Can you stand? We need to get you checked out. Scott nodded weakly. Yeah. Jeffrey helped him up. Lily hovered at his other side. Together, they guided him toward Jeffrey's car. As they reached it, Scott gripped Jeffrey's arm. Wait. Jeffrey paused, unsure what to expect. Scott swallowed hard. Why are you doing this? After how I treated you? Jeffrey met his eyes. Because someone gave me a second chance once. And it changed everything. Scott looked away, ashamed. They drove to the nearest emergency clinic. Scott received stitches, a mild concussion diagnosis, and a reminder to stay off alcohol. Lily filled out forms while Jeffrey waited nearby. Hours later, when they finally returned home, the sky was starting to lighten with early dawn. The house felt different, still heavy, but no longer suffocating. Scott headed upstairs slowly, hand on the railing. Lily approached Jeffrey near the doorway. Thank you, she whispered, for not giving up on him. Or on me. Jeffrey nodded. Just don't make me regret it. She smiled softly. I won't. As she turned to leave, she hesitated. Jeffrey, you're not alone anymore. Not in this house. Not in this family. Not if you don't want to be. He didn't answer, not because he disagreed, but because he didn't know how to accept that yet. When she disappeared upstairs, Jeffrey stood alone in the foyer, the soft glow of dawn spilling through the windows. He had left this house a few weeks ago as an unwanted stray. Now he returned as its owner, but more importantly, its anchor. He exhaled long and deep, feeling something shift inside him. A beginning, possibility. He stepped farther into the house, feeling the weight of the past lift just a little. And he walked forward, ready to face whatever came next. This time, not alone. If you've stayed all through the story, thank you for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to Urban Folks, like the video, and leave your comment below.